Good morning. Hey there. Welcome to another live edition of the Suns Solar Panel Podcast. As always, I'm Dave King, your host. Thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I know it's the dog days of the off season. People aren't really thinking about basketball, but you know what? What we are thinking about is what's going to happen with the Suns roster, who's going to be on it by the time the opening day starts and all that. And so I've got on here Flex as our guest. Flex from Jersey. How you doing today, man?
I'm good, my brother. I'm good. I appreciate you having me on. Always a pleasure, man. Always excited. Ready to have some fun, man.
All right. Excellent. So I thank you everybody for coming on and watching on a Saturday morning on our YouTube show. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a huge favor and hit that thumbs up button on the show. That helps those algorithms so more people get to see this episode after it's done. And if you want to join, we'll talk about the perks for members toward the end of the show. Then if you're listening on the podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. If you like the show, if you're listening to it, leave us a review, leave us a rating, all that stuff. That's always very, very helpful. Now, today, again, we got Flex from Jersey. Flex has been around these parts for a long, long time. He's definitely started out. I think the first things you were doing is calling into the post-game show with John Bloom. And now it's to the point where you are a regular. You are part of that show, right, Flex? Oh, I can't hear you. You're on mute, man.
Yes, I am a part of the show, and I don't want to say something too soon, but I am currently in conversations about taking that to an extremely higher level this season with my friend John Bloom. So let's keep that in the bag now. Let's keep our fingers crossed. But there's a possibility that this next season is going to be an entirely different flex situation on that post.
Flex experience.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I might have to steal that one, brother.
Got a flex experience coming.
Flex experience coming. So we got some things working, a lot of exciting things coming down the pipe with what we're doing. So yeah, man, I'm happy, man. I love doing this. It's my happy place, and I love anytime I could get up with you, Dave. It's great.
Oh, thank you very much. Flex is also at least for now, we'll see what happens, but he's also a co-host of the Coast to Coast podcast with Dan Duarte and does work for KSRN Arizona and the Believe Podcast Network. Anything else I missed that people can find you on?
No,
that's a pretty good run there.
That's it. Flex from Jersey on all major platforms. That's it.
Right on. Flex is best known for his inside information on the Suns. He's the one, Flex, you are the one who broke the Chris Paul news last year. You've broken other news as well. When we get into it in the Flex Time section, we'll talk a little bit about how sources work and why something you hear today may not be true anymore tomorrow, even though it was true when you heard it. Right. We'll get into that a little bit. But we're going to start out. We've got a big show for you today. For all you watchers, all you listeners. We got a 4-quarter show, and in the first quarter, we are going to, pregame warm up. First of all, we're going to talk about latest news from the Suns, what's come down, what we've heard this week. First quarter of the show is how much should Mikel Bridges really be getting in his extension? We've got some really good feedback from a friend of mine, as well as, and we're going to get some feedback from Flex on what he thinks is going to happen. Then we got Flex Time in our second quarter. Then we've got baller talk in the third quarter. And in the fourth quarter, we've got Alex Clancy of the Locked On Cardinals coming in to talk about how these Cardinals, who won 38-13 in week 1, might remind us a little bit of how the Suns suddenly went from nothing to everything all at once. And we'll see what kind of similarities there may be between those two teams. So stay tuned, everybody. I'm really glad you've joined us. Now let's get into the first quarter. Now, the first thing I want to do, Flex, is I want to play you, excuse me, a bit of an interview I had with Zach Harper of The Athletic earlier this week. It's up on my podcast as an audio only. It's available with anybody who's subscribed to the show on the podcast networks or podcast apps. And Zach Harper, I spent an hour with him talking about the Suns. At one point, we talked about Mikel Bridges. And I wanted to show you what Zach Harper said. So everybody, listening in. This is a quick snippet of part of my podcast with Zach Harper.
Bridges, if I'm Bridges and his agent, I'm saying you need to keep this core together. You guys haven't been any good, prior to this last season. You have to keep this together, max me out. Plus, I can, he could go somewhere and average 18 to 20 points per game relatively efficiently, right? And be probably not as good a defender as he's been because there's only so much energy you have, but he'd still be one of the better defenders in the league, and especially on the wings. I think what you're probably going to see is what just happened with John Collins in Atlanta, right? Yeah. Where the Suns say, "Hey, we've got like $80 million for you, $90 million for you. Like, here's an extension." And his camp goes, "No, we'd like to be maxed out or somewhere closer to that." They go through the season, they go into restricted free agency, and it doesn't even come down to an offer sheet. It's just, we've worked out a deal for you for 5 years, 120 million or 125 million, or somewhere in that range, right? And so you get the benefit of no max, but you're still paying him more than you wanted to. That's what I would guess is going to happen. I'm a huge Mikel Bridges fan. I thought that was the steal of the draft when they acquired him from Philly. I thought it was a huge mistake by Philly because he was so good in college and he's so good in the NBA, and you see what he does every single night to everyone going against him. Like, I feel like with Bridges, it's not ideal to pay a guy like that the max. I also think he could justify a max deal in that first extension. After that, no, I wouldn't want to pay him that, but that first extension, I think he's worth 25 to 30 million.
25 to 30 million. So I thought that was interesting, his take on that, that Mikel really should be holding out for a bigger deal than anybody is thinking he should be holding out for. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that. What's your take on that, Flex?
And listen, do I love Mikel? Listen, I love Mikel Bridges. I've called him Young Scotty many a times. He reminds me of a young Scottie Pippen coming out of Central Arkansas, young with the boots. I'm not talking about Hall of Fame Scotty, but I'm talking about the guy that evolved into that player. So I love Mikel Bridges. Here's what I will say. A lot of this talk is easier said than done. It's much easier for someone from outside to say, "Hey, Mikel, sit down and wait a whole nother year and let's get a max contract." When you just played an entire season that took you all the way to the NBA Finals, and you're coming back a year, months later, not even 6 weeks later, to start the new season and try to do it again. And in the back of your mind is always that little bug that says, "Hey, I might feel like a max guy, but I'm one bad step away from no longer being a max guy or quite possibly losing what's on the table right now." Injuries happen. And that's the thing people don't consider when we're talking about this, is that there's a human element to it. Yes, he'd like to secure the future with the max contract, but what he's being offered right now is more than enough to secure his future. And he's young enough to get another max down the road if he is that type of player. So me personally, Dave, I don't think it's going to get to that point. I know it from close sources and contacts that him and Mikel and the Suns have been in discussions for about a month now. I'm told those negotiations are going well. I know Mikel Bridges is he's a pretty simple kid, man. He's a great young man, very educated, smart kid. He's got a great family. And I think the Phoenix Suns, the people that think 80 million are going to get completely mind blown when they see this. It's not going to, they're not going to get Mikel Bridges for 80 million. If I had to guess, I'd say somewhere during camp or maybe right before the season, who knows, we may see something in the effect of 4 years, 95 million for Mikel Bridges. And I think that is I think that's both people meeting in the middle. I think that's Mikel saying, "Hey, you need to go up a little bit. I need to come down a little bit, blah, blah, blah. We meet in the middle. 95 million. That's about $23.7 million a year. I mean, for Mikel Bridges, a guy that still hasn't even gotten to the point where I don't think he's nowhere near his full potential. To secure that type of deal would be absolutely incredible. And I also think the Aaron Gordon deal that just happened this week throws a whole different monkey wrench into that as well. So I don't think it goes to that direction. I don't think we hold out. I think him and DA will be signed before the start of the season. That's just my belief.
All right, let me get into a little bit of nerdery for a couple of minutes, and then I'll ask you a couple of more questions about that, and give my take for the ballers here as well. Y'all know what's coming if I'm going to be a nerd for a second, right?
Dave, stat me.
Oh yeah, baby. So let's talk about the CBA a little bit.
Yeah.
Collective bargaining agreement. There are two guys up for extensions right now, rookie extensions. This is DeAndre Ayton and Mikel Bridges. The Suns already have Devin Booker on a 5-year max designated player extension right now. And the league says the league and the players union have agreed that only 2 players at a time can be on the max designated player extension. Now, here's the deal with this. What we're talking about, it's an extension if you do it a year early. It's only a new contract if you do it the year of restricted free agency. So extension only applies to this period of time right now between here and opening day. Opening day being a little bit before October 31st. The Suns have that long to agree to deals with their players, with these 2 players, or they have to wait until next spring. Or next off season, actually, to agree to a restricted free agency deal, which does not have the same. There's a couple of limits on Mikel. Let's assume for a moment that DeAndre Ayton is going to get more money in an extension. Let's also assume for a moment that DeAndre Ayton, if anyone's going to get that second designated max, it's going to be him. And I do believe that that's coming. I do believe the question is, what does it look like? Is it that max means it can be up to 5 years? And if you do 5 years, it has to be the max. Okay. You cannot do an extension for less than 5 years while giving the max. It has to be 5 years. If you give 5 years, it has to be the max. So DeAndre Ayton almost certainly is going to get that. The question is it a flat 25% with no escalators if he makes all NBA, or does he get escalators like Devin did if he makes all NBA? And the all NBA only applies to this next coming year before the extension starts. So long story short, DeAndre Ayton is going to get more money than Mikel. He's almost certainly going to get that max, even if it's 5 years, 25% of the cap to start with your raises. The raises are negotiable. The escalators are negotiable if he makes all NBA, but that's done. So that means Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton are both going to be on the 5-year designated max, which means Mikel cannot get a 5-year contract this fall.
Facts.
Okay. Mikel is capped at 4 years. All the other rookie extensions, that includes, if anybody cares, Landry Shamet, if they wanted to throw him something, that can max at 4 years at less, that can cap at 4 years at less than max. So you're saying 4 years, 95 flex. If it's 4 years, 100, whatever that is, that's around 25 million a year.
Could be that. It could be that.
Right. But it can't be 5. So don't be disappointed if it's not 5. If DeAndre gets 5, then Mikel cannot. Okay, that's just it. Now they both could just get 4, but DeAndre's not going to agree to 4 this fall. He's going to wait until next spring, and then he's going to make some other team get them, and it's just going to get bad. So DeAndre's going to get the 5. Mikel is not. He's going to get 4, but he can still get almost max. It just can't be full max. So 25 to 30 million. Zach Harper is right that is possible, but Flex, you're thinking that probably he'll take less than less than 30 mil or 28 mil or 27 mil. It might be in the 24, 25 range.
Yeah, I mean, listen, 4 years, 95, 4 years, 100. I got no problem with it. I think Mikel Bridges is that good. You start talking, $30 million. I just don't see it right now, and I don't think either side is seeing that right now. I think, and here's what I'll say. Another point that you made up on the explanation of the cap is if Mikel decided to go to restricted free agency and found a team that wanted to pay him max, that would only be 4 years, because an outside team can only give you a 4-year deal. Your current team can give you 5. So what I think is going to happen is exactly what you said. I think the DA, I think it's October 18th this year is the deadline to have these extensions done.
Yeah.
So they got until October 18th. DeAndre's hold up per my conversations is exactly that. Is it going to be 25% or is it going to be 30%? At the end of the day, everyone knows that this is going to be a 5-year max extension. DeAndre feels like he deserves it. And I think the Suns know that we're heading in that direction. And so the Mikel conversation is a little bit different. But again, I think Mikel Bridges ends up signing a 4-year, 95-ish to $100 million deal and is completely happy doing it. And ready to run it back because he's a team guy and he's going to meet them in the middle. At least that's my opinion. That's my view on things from where I'm sitting. I just think he's ready to be he's ready to be a Phoenix Sun for a long time. He loves it here, and I think that's the move.
But he wants to be a Phoenix Sun for a long time.
Yes.
But if the Nathaniel Jackson in the chat says, "What about offering 85?" I think if the Suns cap at 85 and they hold firm on that, Mikel's going to wait it out.
Yes, I believe that to be true. That I think that's listen. It's really. I'm trying to say things without saying things, and this is hard.
You don't think he's going to wait it out, is what you're saying?
He's absolutely not going to wait this out.
And the Suns aren't going to make him wait it out.
I don't think the Suns are stupid enough to make them try to mess with Mikel Bridges, and I don't think Mikel Bridges is going to sit back and say, man, like, think about this, Dave. Hold on. Let's rewind because this is another part of the element. If I called you and if we were on this show a year ago, before the Suns, we knew who the Suns became, right after the Chris Paul trade. And I said, hey, Dave, we're going to fast forward 12 months from now, and Mikel Bridges is going to get $100 million. At that moment, what would you have told me? A year ago. This is
a year ago, and the Suns had not made the playoffs in 10 years. The reason I would have said probably not, or I hope not, is because the Suns had yet to make the playoffs. But now, a year later, they made the finals with this group.
Right. So now you got to pay up.
But you mentioned a couple of minutes ago about sorry, Flex, go ahead.
No, you're good.
You mentioned a couple of minutes ago about Aaron Gordon throwing a wrench in it. Let me talk about the structure here between the Denver Nuggets and the Phoenix Suns. The Nuggets are just a little bit ahead of the Suns in terms of locking people up. They've already got Nikola Jokic on his max, designated rookie max. They've got Jamal Murray on the max. So they've already got their 2 max guys. I believe they've got their 2 max guys. I'd have to look back, but they've got to go pretty close to that for Michael Porter Jr. real soon. He's also waiting for that. And they locked up Aaron Gordon, who was their 4th guy, to 4x92. So that now all of a sudden the Suns have Chris Paul on his veteran max. They've got Devin Booker on the designated rookie. They're going to have DeAndre Ayton on a max. Mikel Bridges is like that 4th guy, kind of like Aaron Gordon. Would you rather have Mikel Bridges or would you rather have Aaron Gordon?
Oh, no question. Mikel Bridges. I mean, I was shocked that Aaron Gordon got $92 million. I was absolutely shocked. I was talking to my league sources and my contacts, and I'm like, guys, Aaron Gordon just got $92 million. And that was the feeling from everybody. It was almost like, what? The $92 million. I mean, I didn't see that coming. But that contract is now going to be a barometer for a lot of people, the Michael Porter Jr.'s of the world and the Mikel Bridges of the world. They're going to be able to look back and say, hey, if this guy got $92 million, why are you offering me 85? So it changes things, and that's what happens when these contracts come out, and sometimes teams overpay. But no, Mikel Bridges in spades. I think Mikel Bridges is going to be an all-NBA defender first team. I think he can fight one or 2 years in his career if he maximizes potential to be a defensive player of the year. I mean, I think he's incredible. I call him Young Scotty, and I tell you, Dave, I've been saying this for years. He literally reminds me of Scottie Pippen, and I keep telling people. I actually had a conversation with someone close to the team this week, and I literally told him, I said, if Mikel Bridges breaks out this year, the Suns become an absolute juggernaut. I mean, they are on an entirely different level if Mikel Bridges takes that next step, which we saw in a guy like Scottie Pippen in the early 90s. And that was the magic sauce to that Bulls team. I think Mikel is that in spades. I think if he takes that next step, is more reliable in the mid-range and can create a shot maybe off a pump fake, off a 2-dribble drive. He becomes an incredibly hard person to defend because he's 40% from 3. and then the defense in spades. So yeah, this kid could be the key to the Suns having sustained success, and that's why you give him 95 or 100 million, and you don't think about it.
Yeah, one thing I will throw out is that one or both of these guys could decide kindly, not angrily, but kindly, to wait till next summer. And let me just use John Collins as an example. The Atlanta Hawks offered John Collins before his 4th year on his rookie deal, somewhere around that $90 million on an extension, less than max on an extension, and he declined it and played through the year. Didn't cause waves. The Hawks made it to the conference finals. After the season was over, he suddenly signed 5 years, $125 million. Why was he able to do 5 years at less than max? Well, because he did it as a restricted free agent. Right. So there is a small chance, and I wonder if the Suns are talking about it, but man, that's rolling some dice you don't want to roll. But there is a small chance that the Suns are like, look, Mikel, you could play out another year, and then we'll pay you market next summer, and we can go 5 years, because this fall they cannot go 5 years if they give 5 to DeAndre, which if they have to choose between the two, it's going to be DeAndre. Then they can have both guys under contract for 5 years. But that is rolling dice. That is testing karma. That is something you just don't want to do. And as a couple of the chatters have pointed out, you don't want another Joe Johnson situation. No. Joe Johnson was considered, and still is considered, one of the nicest guys in the history of the NBA.
Yeah.
And yet, by being forced to play out his 4th year rookie deal, he was so disenchanted with the Suns by the end of that, even though the Suns made the conference finals and he was one of the better players on the team, that he insisted that he leave as a restricted free agent. You don't want that with Mikel Bridges.
No.
You want to keep him. You want to get him signed. Now, let me ask you a question, Flex. Do you see the Suns having any desire to make sure that DeAndre and Mikel are announced as like together at the same time? Or do you think those are completely different? One could sign this week, the other could sign next week. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, they're two entirely different situations, entirely separate entities.
Well, I'm not suggesting like Morris twins splitting the money.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, they're just looked at completely different. Listen, it's a negotiation, Dave, and that's what it is. And I know there's people that are like, "Hey, man, get DeAndre done, get Mikel done." Both sides are talking. My information is the talks are going well. There's no animosity. That's the biggest part of it, is that up until now, there's no animosity. You don't want either of these guys to go into this year and have to play out a restricted year, like you just said. You just don't want it. It messes up your locker room. It messes up your chemistry. It makes that person play apprehensive. Okay, you're trying to win an NBA championship. You don't want Mikel Bridges worrying about his $90 to $100 million bag and not going 100%. That's because
what if he gets hurt this year?
Right. And so he can't get hurt this year. And now you're playing apprehensive because you're saying, okay, I might be able to chase down that shot. I may be able to get a chase down block here. But if I go through this chase down block and come down on the wrong way of my leg or my ankle, I could be hurting my future. So guess what? I'm not going to go there. And I'm not saying that DeAndre and Mikel, those type of players, I know those two guys are not going to be worrying about money on the court. They're going to go out there and make plays. But subconsciously that comes into your mind, Dave. So I think the Suns will be absolute. I'm not even going to say the word I was going to use, but I think they'd be crazy if they didn't try to lock these two young, talented basketball players up before the start of the season. And I will say this, I'm confident both deals will get done, but I will say there is an avenue. I'm not going to say with who, but I will say there is an avenue in which one of them could not get done and go into next year. There is an avenue.
You're not going to say which. You got to tell us which.
I tell you what, let me just say this. I have a feeling the Mikel deal is gonna get done, like we said. The DeAndre deal is exactly what you said. We're talking 25 or 30 million or 30%. That's the angle. And I'll tell you what, I'll put it this way, Dave. If the DeAndre situation is a little different because you have to pay max.
Yeah.
Right? Think about this. Mikel, if you get him done now, you're avoiding a possible max. So it's very smart to do Mikel's now. DeAndre's really it's a crazy dynamic, but it's the Suns don't lose by waiting. I mean, they already know they're gonna pay max.
They might lose up here. Goodwill,
yes,
mental stability.
Well, that's the problem, and they know this. They know this. That's where the rubber meets the road. But if we're just talking business, take away all the mental stuff, take away all the subconscious things. If you're just talking business, the Suns are saying we can give you the max right now. We can give you the max down the road. We know it's going to be max. So there's really no rush, but the rush is goodwill. That's the rush.
The rush is goodwill.
And I think they will work it out because, again, the same thing I said for Mikel, I'll say for DeAndre. He absolutely loves the Phoenix Suns. He loves the area. This is family here. He wants to be a Sun. These guys want to be Suns. These guys want to.
They don't want the Suns to screw it up.
No, and they know they're a big part of it. And the good thing is you're talking max with DeAndre, okay? So I'm not being disrespectful. And we're talking 95 to 100 million with Mikel. So in any way, shape, or form, if that's deemed disrespectful, then somebody's not on the same wavelength. Both guys are being treated the way they should be treated. And that's why I think at the end of the day, they'll all work something out. And this team will be ready to run it back come opening night.
Yeah. Okay, good. Good to hear. All right. Thank you very much. Hey, if you guys liked that couple of minutes of Zach Harper that I just played a second ago, that was on my midweek, one of my midweek podcasts. I had 2 different midweek podcasts. I want to just tell you guys about that a little bit. So I'm going to play a bit of a quick commercial to tell you how to get other shows besides just the Saturday morning show. For those watching this episode on YouTube, I've got some news for you. You're only getting half the story. The Solar Panel Podcast delivers you an additional special episode every Wednesday with a national personality from places like The Ringer, The Athletic, Bleacher Report, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, NBA.com, and everyone else. You'll hear what the non-locals think about the Suns and the NBA in general. It's a new feed, though. You've got to click some buttons. Forget the old one. Get the new one. Go to your favorite pod app, search for Solar Panel Podcast with the orange logo. While you're there, subscribe, rate, and review. And if you leave me a 5-star review, I'll give you props on the air.
Let's go.
All right, man. Get on there.
I like that. Let's
go. Have you given me a 5-star review yet, Flex?
I did. You read it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, good. See how easy it is? Even if Flex can do it, everyone can do it.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, let's move on to the second quarter. We're going to call this segment Flex Time.
Let's go. Let's have some fun.
Let's go. We are going to pick your brain. Flex, it has inside information on these Suns. The first thing we want to know about that everyone wants to know about is explain your tweet the other day on Thad Young, the latest on the Thad Young potential.
All right, let me make this clear, Dave, because I want to clear this up because this has been back and forth. First things first, I heard about the Thad Young deal on August 6th, okay? I was told by an inside source, made a couple phone calls, double check, triple check. It was real. And then on August 8th, I tweeted it out, okay? And the basis of that deal have always been Dario Saric and Jalen Smith, okay? Emphatically, this is not a rumor. I'm telling you, James Jones and the San Antonio Spurs are talking about a Thaddeus Young trade, okay? This everybody could cut the nonsense out. That's being talked about heavily. Now, here's the situation. San Antonio Spurs have been seeking a first-round pick for Thaddeus Young, okay? They want a first-round pick for Thaddeus Young. He's got a $14 million expiring contract. He's 33 years old, and he's probably never going to play a game with the San Antonio Spurs. So everyone knows this. So everyone is basically saying, we'll call your bluff. Put him in uniform. Let's see what happens. You're not going to get that at the deadline. So they're probably running out of luck with the first-round pick thing. I believe the Suns, I know the Suns are offering Dario Saric and Jalen Smith, and they'll go as high as a second-round pick. But here's the holdup. The holdup I'm talking about is the Spurs are continuously talking to other teams, and without saying too much, the Suns may get a player back of, just a numbers guy, not anybody that I anticipate to even play a game with the Phoenix Suns. Okay.
Just
but
to
if there's
fit the salary situation.
Just to fit a salary situation. And so there's NBA rules that say if you add a player with Thaddeus Young or a third team, remember I said that, or a third team, because there are discussions about adding a third team. The trade window gets affected by 60 days because he was traded, and you have to wait 60 days before you can attach players or add other teams to this deal. And so that's the holdup, and that's what I anticipate is going to happen. Okay, I believe Thaddeus Young up until today. Now, you know this, Dave, and I try to explain this very carefully to people. These things are being talked about. They're very delicate. And what's happening at this moment, I can get a text 30 minutes from now and say, that's it, we're done. We're moving on. So that's just how it works. And you know this. We've talked in the past and about how delicate these things are. So as of today, I believe that Thaddeus Young, in some way or another, will be a Phoenix Sun this season. And I think that it's going to be a package deal where you're going to see a couple guys moving around, and again, maybe even a third team. And if that third team is involved, I think the San Antonio Spurs get their wish. Let me just say that. Again, I'm trying not to say too much, but if the third team is involved, which I've heard there are 2 or 3 teams that are involved, and there are a couple other players, I don't want to throw their names out there, but if that happens, the Spurs may actually find a way to get their wish and add a first-round pick to their stable. And that's what we're waiting for. So that's the wait. That's the hold up. Those are the league rules. And they're going to max out every option. There's no rush to do this. It doesn't make sense to try to rush the deal for the Phoenix Suns. It's the Spurs that need to make sure they're okay. And the Suns are just sitting back saying, hey, have fun. Do what you want to do. We're here. We're the only team that can give you – let me make this clear, Dave, without being long-winded. We're the only team that can comfortably match $14 million and give you – if you want a first-round pick, the best you're going to get is a former first-round pick who was a 10th pick overall in the draft, who sat on a championship team, not his fault, and went in the summer league and made first team all rookie. I mean, all summer league. So it makes a lot of sense. And again, another thing I'll say, people are disvaluing Dario Saric. The Spurs like Dario Saric, and they love that he can be their new Thad Young next year. They're double dipping.
There you go. That's right, because they could trade him next year as an expiring for that same way.
So people, I keep hearing people say, "Oh, they don't want Dario Saric." No, yes, they do. And another thing I'll say to make this very clear, I'm glad you're giving me this moment because it's been driving me crazy, and I want to make this clear. The Spurs are officially rebuilding, and they are okay with tanking for the first time in 100 million years, right? And guess what? The easiest way to tank is with a player that you know can't even play for you next year. Okay? Yeah. That is a simple way of tanking. So in a nutshell, this deal, for what I know, is very likely to happen at this moment.
Well, so let's talk about the likely to happen, not likely to happen stuff. And you alluded to it a second ago, but I want to talk about it in general because you get dragged a little bit on social media, as does Gambo, John Gambadoro on local radio. Anybody basically who is willing to share, okay. So first of all, you got Suns Twitter begging for news, begging for rumors, begging for what are you hearing? Then when you actually share what you're hearing, they hold that against you if it doesn't come true.
Yeah.
Just think about your job. And I'm talking to the fans here right now. Think about your job. You're sitting in a meeting. Okay. You're sitting in a group meeting at work, or it's on Zoom or whatever it is. And you go through like 5 things on your agenda and you talk about them in a way that, you know what, is that never the decision you make in that meeting? Can that never be changed? Once you've said it in a meeting, you can't ever change it. No, you change it. Based on new information or based on things that happen afterwards. You're always changing that doesn't mean you were wrong in that meeting to be talking about it in the way you were. That just means things changed. So please look, I'm not saying that you should always believe everything Flex says and you should always believe everything Gambo says, because they may not be true, Just take it with that grain of salt, though, please, because that's what they're hearing. You should believe that that's what they're hearing. Don't believe that that's guaranteed to happen and they lied to you if it doesn't, or they were being lied to if it doesn't, because they weren't. You were being told the best information in the moment.
Right.
If it turns out not to be true, that's not your fault.
Man, Dave, I wish I need to hire you, man. I mean,
right. I'm nobody's PR guy.
Listen, you know,
I got left by my co-host, man. You don't want me as your PR guy.
No, that was done fantastic. And this is the thing I'll say for Suns Twitter and people that follow what I do. I'm never ever going to tweet something unless I verified this from 2 or 3 sources at the minute. You know how many times I've gotten information, Dave, and I'll sit on it just because I haven't gotten the second or third verification. And so
that's the job.
That's the job. And again, sometimes you have to sit on things because the person that tells you says, hey, don't say anything right now. And so it's a very thin line to deal with. And yes, you're never going to always be right. And what I'm hearing is what I'm reporting. And what I just heard 10 minutes ago can change 20 minutes later because these are NBA basketball teams and things are constantly changing. So I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you gave people more of some more insight into how this thing works. Me and you have had talks, just to be clear, on the solar panel. Everybody knows me and Dave King have talked at 2 a.m. about things.
Yeah.
You remember when the Chris Paul thing happened? No one had
you had
that.
to talk me into it.
Right. We talked for an hour and I'm like, Dave, Chris wants to come. He's telling, and we talked about it. And this was well before ESPN got to it. But yet there were things I was able to tell you that I just couldn't go and tweet.
Right.
So I'm glad you did that. It's well appreciated. But guys, I'm never going to put anything out there that isn't double and triple checked. And I'm only reporting what I'm hearing from my sources. And that's where it ends. That's how it goes.
All right. Now Flex is lying. No way Dave is awake at 2 a.m. You guys don't know Dave.
But it was 2 a.m.
2 a.m. his time, 11. Well, that's true.
Yes.
But you also don't know Dave. You only know the guy you think you know. Of course, when was the last time I was up at 2 a.m.? I cannot remember. But the point is made. You don't know Dave. Right. All right. Anyway, let's go on to a couple more questions I have for you in this segment, Flex. How many are you? I don't know how much you hear on the daily about the Suns, but we're always in September. We're always wondering how many guys rushed back to work out together and how many guys have hung back in their own bubbles and stayed until they have to report to training camp. Do you know how many guys are running on a daily basis at the practice facility?
All of them except 2.
All except 2. Big news.
2. All of them except 2.
Who are the 2 that aren't there?
One of them is your star point guard who just had surgery, so he's not going to be there.
Well, that's okay. Chris Paul, man. Chris Paul needs rest. And if that rest comes in pickup, that's fine with me.
And the other one is your franchise player who needs the rest because he just played in the Olympics. Okay? That's simple. It's that simple. Those 2 guys played the most minutes. The team doesn't want them doing that. It's not in their best interest to do that. Chris Paul is actually recovering from a surgery.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Devin Booker had to go to the Olympics and play more basketball than anyone, and rightfully so, deserves the time to spend some time with family, travel a little bit, do some things. And so everyone except those 2.
Devin Booker has spent his entire career trying to get the Suns to be a winning team. And he finally gets it. Then he gets all the way to the finals. Then he wins a gold medal in the Olympics. He deserves some time off.
He deserves
some time off. And that dude is a dude that is not going to show up half-assed when he finally does show up. He's going to be in great shape, or he's going to get himself into great shape as soon as he possibly can. The guy I was worried, there's always guys you worry about.
Deandre?
But if everyone else, if everyone else is there, that is really good news.
Everyone has been there. This is what I've been told, and I talk to people around the Suns almost every day, and I was told everyone at some point has reported they're in the gym, they're working. A lot of them are still out there. Mikel Bridges is an absolute monster when it comes to this stuff. This kid doesn't stop. DeAndre's come back. And here's another thing, guys. Like, I want to be clear. Devin Booker played the most basketball, and he deserves a rest. And he's traveling, and he's resting his body a little bit. That guy's working. He's not in the gym with the Suns running pickup. He's working. He's Devin's a different creature. Devin is absolutely built a different way. He doesn't know how not to work. So sometimes, Suns got to get involved and say, Devin, no, we'll see you on the 26.
That's right.
That's just how it works. So he's such a workaholic. He works so hard that sometimes you got to calm him down. And he needs the rest. He absolutely needs the rest.
All right. I got to nerd out again for a second.
Yes, sir.
Devin Booker has more wins under his belt that he's participated in games where the final score at the final buzzer, the Suns won in the past 365 days than any other, actually past now since July of 2020, than any other NBA player in the game. No one has won more games than Devin Booker when he's been on the court than anyone else in the league.
Not surprising. I mean, the kid's phenomenal, man. Listen, all they had to do was give him better than Isaiah Canaan and Tyler Ulis. And, I'm not, and no disrespect to those guys, but they just simply had to give him professional basketball players that were experienced enough to allow this kid to become who he is. I'm going to give you a really hot take, man. I think the NBA is going to belong to Devin Booker in 2 to 3 years. I really do. I just think he is ready to explode what the NBA allowed him to do this year. Not what they allowed him to do, what he actually took the bull by the horns and did.
Yeah.
I don't know that the NBA is ready for the guy that they're going to see next season and the following season, because you just gave that young man a taste of what the ultimate prize looks like. And now he is absolutely, you heard Chris Paul.
No one is more laser focused than Devin Booker.
No one. Chris Paul said he's addicted to the NBA finals, and Devin Booker is now obsessed. And so we got a good thing going, man. Let's keep it going, man. This is going to be really fun, Dave.
All right, man. It is a little past halftime. I am going to do our little halftime ad. Folks, I've made it a little bit shorter, so just hang in there, but you got to listen to this halftime ad, and then I'm going to ask Flex an extremely important question when this one is over. So be back in a minute. Attention listeners from across the galaxy, all the way from Australia to Houston, do we have a pube problem? If so, our friends at Manscaped have cleared you for takeoff with their 4th generation and brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Kick your pubes to the next planet with Performance Package 4.0. The orbits in your pants will feel like you're in zero gravity when you use the best tools for the job from the leaders in male grooming. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get your rocket ready for takeoff. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code FLAMINGBALLERS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code FLAMINGBALLERS at manscaped.com. Your dick and balls need some help. For a clean trinity and beyond, your space balls will thank you. There we go, man.
My God, I'm crying right now, Dave.
So, dude, Flex, I have an extremely important question for you.
Let's go.
We see how you keep it clean.
Yeah.
I see your mustache right there.
Yeah,
you keep that thing clean.
Yes,
you got the beard.
Yes,
you got to tell me.
Yeah.
Is down there closer to your mustache or your beard?
A mustache.
All right, man. You keep it clean.
I keep it clean top to bottom. I'm married. I have to. My wife.
There you go. She don't let you. She don't let you be the woolly mammoth, huh?
That's right. That's right. No caveman stuff, man. Let's keep it clean.
Everyone else out there, you got to keep it clean. Get Manscaped. All right.
Yes, sir.
Now we are moving on to the third segment of our show before we have our extra guest coming on in a few minutes. For the third segment of our show, we are going to rapid fire through this baller talk. And this starts with a question from Blaze Megatron. I'm just going to read it. I didn't have time to make a splash page for it, so you're just going to have to listen here. This is from Blaze Megatron. Blaze asks, if cap space and availability was no requirement, who'd be your dream starting power forward for this Suns team right here? Feel free to name an all-time Suns great as well if you don't want to name a current NBA power forward. Do you have any ideas, or do you want me to go first, Flex?
Go ahead. We can go. I have ideas. Yeah, but go ahead.
You got ideas? All right, let me just do a quickie because we got our guest waiting in the wings for us. My ideal power forward, if I could do it with no money, no worries, no nothing. I mean, of course, you can go with Anthony Davis or Kawhi Leonard. Both of those would be great next to DA. Kawhi would be the swing forward that the Suns really, really need. And these are all no-brainers. But let me pull a couple of surprises out a little bit, I think. Pascal Siakam, I think, would be incredible next to these guys in this lineup. But he already makes about $30 million a year, so that's not really going to happen. Now let's go into history. In history, who would be your favorite power forward that could go next to in this lineup next to DA and Mikel, in between DA and Mikel? Channing Frye would be a nice choice, but that would be kind of a low end, like low ceiling choice. How about all the way back into the 70s and 80s, and we go Connie Hawkins? People don't remember how great Connie Hawkins was. What I want to do is I want to show you real quickly how great that young man was. And I'm going to share my screen real quick. So hopefully I figured out this technology. You guys look at this and you tell me you wouldn't want that guy playing next between DA and Mikel.
Dave, while you're doing that, I got a tech issue real quick. I got to handle 2 seconds.
All right. Oh, man. I hope everybody can hear the sound here. Look at this guy.
Whew.
That young man was pretty darn good at basketball. He was the Dr. J, like second level to Dr. J, but he had this weird issue with being blackballed with the NBA and all that, but for a while. But I tell you what, he was an incredible athlete, and if the Suns could have had him, that would have been great. So now tell me quick, Flex, before we move on to our next question and then on to our guest. Who would you say is the ideal power forward for this team?
I'm going to tell you a guy I love, and it's probably off the radar. He's a former Sun. I think if you put him and you say no more Jay Crowder and we put this guy in here, the Suns are the best team in the NBA. Shawn Marion. I love Shawn Marion.
Hey, yes.
Shawn Marion. All defense, going to block shots, can hit the three ball, can do everything, can guard every position. That's the type of guy. That's the Swiss Army knife for this team, I'm saying. And then my next choice is Charles Barkley, because I just think Charles Barkley can do everything. He can also shoot the three in this league. Charles can shoot the ball a little bit, and if you put him in this league and allow him to shoot a little bit more, I think he showed a lot of potential there. So Charles can do everything, but I just absolutely love Shawn Marion. I think he's one of the top players I've ever seen in a Phoenix Suns uniform, and they need to hurry up and figure that thing out over there and get his number retired and do all that stuff, because it's well overdue. Yeah. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's a clear Hall of Famer. And so if I had a choice to pick a former Phoenix Sun to play power forward for this basketball team, it's the Matrix, man. Give me the Matrix and we'll win a championship this year.
That would be incredible. Yep. Shawn Marion would be great. Okay, last question from the Ballers.
Yeah.
Lakers fans, they're really dismissive of the Suns this year and have a very high opinion of themselves. Surprise, surprise, right?
Yeah.
Practically guaranteeing a chip for themselves if they can stay healthy. What are your thoughts on the new Lakers?
AARP. That's my thought. That's my thought. I mean, come on. You know what? It's I don't see it, man. I don't see it. I don't like the team. And I'm not saying this from the Suns' homer perspective. I'm saying from an NBA perspective, I'm going to tell you what. I don't like the team. I don't like the chemistry. I don't like the build. I think there's going to be locker room issues. I think there's going to be people that made decisions that are going to be disappointed. I think there's young guys that decide to go there thinking that the grass might be green on the other side, playing with LeBron. They're going to see how hard that is. And I don't think they're as high as people think. I think the Lakers are going to hover around the 5-6 spot this year. I really do. And I think there'll be injuries. I think there's a lot of people that are quote unquote walking glass. And yeah. And
are they going to make extra room for the walkers on the sidelines?
Yeah. I mean, Dave, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. I don't like what they're doing. I just don't. And so I don't want to be that dismissive, you know what I'm saying? But they got 25 people over the age of 32. Come on, guys. Like, come on. Let's, no chemistry. Yeah. AARP. That's what I'm saying.
All right, man. All right. Now we are going to move on to the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter of this show. Thank you, ballers, by the way. When I say that, when I Blaze and Steve, you guys are two of our members on the show. Thank you so much. You've joined up. You've signed up. You've contributed some of your hard-earned money to the show, and now you get to be part of the show in the third quarter. If you guys want to join Steve and Blaze and other guys, definitely you can. Just hit that join button. Now we're going to bring in another big guest here. We got Alex Clancy of Locked On Cardinals. Welcome to the show, Alex.
What's up? Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
What's up, Alex?
It's chilling, man. That ARP line got me laughing in the backstage.
So Alex works on Locked On Cardinals. He also used to be a producer on a couple of the radio channels, and we've talked in the past and when we're talking about guest spots on radio. So I know Alex for a little while. You guys should follow him on Locked On Cardinals. And we saw the Cardinals win 38-13 this past week in a way that they wouldn't have done a year ago. A year ago, they would have found a way to fumble around in that game. But they looked like they had their crap together a lot better this past week. Alex, and what I thought was, could this Cardinals team be kind of like last year's Suns team where they went from nothing to something all at once and suddenly from nothing to great all at once? What are you seeing from the Cardinals?
I mean, I hope so. Damn it, we've been having a tough go here with Locked On Cardinals with trying to find some positivity since 2018. But yeah, I mean, they're on their way. Unfortunately, in the NFL, the Chris Paul effect needs to come from the head coach, and it ain't coming from the head coach right now. Cliff's getting better. He's getting better. I have a moratorium for 3 more days. I can't talk negatively about Coach Cliff. I put it on myself. But yeah, I mean, Dave, it could be. I mean, that was in a vacuum a perfect game. Yeah. And you can't expect that. They look like world beaters, look like Super Bowl contenders, and they may be down the road, but we ain't seeing that this year. I don't think, at least. All you need to do is take a step forward instead of a step back, and they'll be all right. And that's kind of where we're looking right now. Yeah, that's where we're at. I mean, having Chris Paul with the Suns and having Devin Booker really come into his own. Kyler's not there yet. That's this year. So they're not there yet, but they're hopefully be on their way.
So do you see them more like the 2019-20 Suns that are kind of on the doorstep, or do you think that you got to see more before you know the difference?
I mean, the NFL's so fickle that it's every week is like a new season. Like, sure, there's momentum and stuff, but not like in the NBA. Where, you go on a hot home winning streak and you're playing, some inferior opponents. The NFL, like coming up Sunday, we could be talking completely differently about the Cardinals than we did after week 1 with Minnesota coming into town. I think that they're a little bit further ahead than the 2019-2020 Suns because they've slowly and incrementally been getting better. They've been adding more talent to the roster and the culture's shifting. And I think in that light, they're probably synonymous with the 2019-2020 Suns, where you're starting to see just a little shift. Slowly but surely looking more towards positivity than, oh no, what wrong will happen next. And I think it's nice to see, especially in Phoenix, where two teams growing at the same time with buzz around them. That's where we're at right now. I'm not really looking too far down the road besides that.
Right.
So tomorrow they've got the Vikings coming up. Flex, you got some thoughts about the Vikings-Cardinals game?
Yeah, I'm actually an avid Viking guy.
Oh.
So, I got some intel on this football team. So I will say this, Alex, I got some questions. I think your analogy of the Cardinals being more like the bubble Suns than the version we're looking at now, I think that's incredible. I think that's kind of where I see it. I think you talked about how, the game that you got from 5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles from Jones. I mean, that's an aberration, right? That's kind of how you see it. My question to you is this: with the Minnesota Vikings coming in, that defense has gotten revamped. You got Patrick Peterson on one side. You got a Harrison Smith in the back. You're going to have a quarterback spy and a guy, all-pro guy like Eric Kendricks watching, although he's got a quad issue. But if Eric Kendricks can play, it's going to do a different dynamic for Kyler. How do you see the backfield, man? How do you see that thing shaking out with Chase Edmonds and James Conner? I kind of saw a little bit of it last week, but I couldn't quite put my finger on who the actual lead back is there. And what do you see? How do you see that playing out, especially with a Viking up front defense that needs more of a traditional running back as more than a third down back?
Yeah, we didn't see it at all last week because they were up by 2 scores the whole game. So This will be the game where we'll see it. Patrick Peterson, we kind of have a moratorium on him too because he's given us so much content. Thank you, Patrick Peterson. Thank you so much for this offseason, you maniac. I really appreciate that. But the run game, it's a good question because this is the game where we're gonna have to see it. Yes. The defense is obviously better than what we saw with Tennessee yesterday or last week. I don't know that answer. I'm not going to project that answer because Steve Keim didn't do his due diligence enough to add some more ammo to that backfield where I think it's necessary, because the main goal for this year is for the Cardinals offense to get better and for Kyler Murray to run less. That's the goal. And you have to have a good run game, especially when you're up, to be able to bleed clock. I say every team needs a LeGarrette Blount. Every team needs a LeGarrette Blount that Bill Belichick just utilized in the fourth quarter when they're up 13 points with 10 minutes left. You give them the rock 15 times in the fourth quarter, doesn't matter. They're going to churn the clock and move the sticks. And the Cardinals may have that with James Conner. We just don't know yet. And especially with the Cardinals having a bunch of minute and a half or less drives that ended in a 3-and-out punt last year that just sets their defense up for lack of success. You need a guy that can run the ball. James Conner looks spry. He looked like James Conner from a couple of years ago, and maybe if you utilize him as the second back and only getting 10 or 14 catches a game instead of 25 like Pittsburgh did, he may be able to last 17 games. But we don't know because Chase Edmonds hasn't been a lead back and James Conner hasn't been healthy.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to Kyler just having to be able to throw to these guys. Now, what I saw from Kyler and DeAnthony Hopkins yesterday, I'm sorry, DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah.
It's not a name you should forget, man. DeAndre, come on. We got DeAndre.
I don't know
all
how
up in
I
here.
came up with DeAnthony.
It's okay.
But anyway, DeAndre Hopkins yesterday or last Sunday they were actually running different routes. It looked like he was doing more complex routes, getting the ball to Hopkins. A lot of the knock on Kyler last year was that he couldn't really see over the middle, and he couldn't really tell if his guys were going to be open on crossing routes, and that's where Hopkins really shines. It looked like they figured out different ways to get Hopkins doing something other than a down and out.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And because I'm on my Cliff Kingsbury moratorium, I can't go more in depth about what I think it is. But I agree, Dave. Listen, his route tree is a joke. DeAndre Hopkins is like there was a graphic from Next Gen Stats mid-season last season where it was Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, Devontae Adams, and DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins looked like a bush on the left side, and that's it. And everybody else looked like lightning strikes, which is how you're supposed to move around your best wide receiver. Now, I don't really know if it's Kyler's inability to throw the ball in intermediate passing or not. We don't know if that's true or not. We don't know if it's play calling. We don't know what it is, but what we do know is that DeAndre Hopkins is the best receiver in the league, in my opinion. He was when he was in Houston. He is now. He's just not getting the opportunities that Devontae Adams gets, especially in the red zone. But I think moving him around like they did towards the end of last season is fine. But I also think they don't necessarily need to. Put him on the left side of the field, put him up against cornerback one. Who cares? The dude's going to produce. And then you have a bunch of speed now that you didn't have last year with Rondale Moore and Christian Kirk taking that Larry Fitzgerald role. So it's going to keep other corners and safeties, mostly honest, which will allow DeAndre Hopkins a little bit more space. He doesn't need a whole lot. But yeah, they did move him a little bit, but most of his route tree was still the same. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I also think that they underutilized him heavily.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like just because he's making do with that doesn't mean that's a great route tree. Because I also saw a comparison of the year before with the Texans, all the different routes that Deandre Hopkins ran for the Texans before he got traded to the Cardinals, and then the one with the Cardinals where you're talking about, it looks like a little stump in the lower left corner.
Yeah.
It's just amazing what Cliff did to throttle that guy. And you don't know if he was covering for Kyler or whether Cliff just has zero creativity. So the difference is between, let's go back to this is the Suns show. The difference between the Suns and the Cardinals is the head coach. Monty Williams came in with a reputation of being a little bit old school, and he's proven that he's really new school, really creative, knows how to get the most out of his players, puts them in positions to succeed and go out of their skin and grow bigger than the player they were. And Cliff Kingsbury has not done that yet. The only guy who's really broken out and shown he's great is Kyler Murray, and kind of the way Devin Booker broke out and showed he was great with Earl Watson. I mean, is Cliff Kingsbury closer to an Earl Watson as a coach or Monty Williams as a coach?
No comment, damn it.
He can't talk about
No, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, here's the thing is, let me tell you this, okay? When they signed J.J. Watt, Cliff Kingsbury, the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, he said, that's a guy you don't want to upset. What the hell are you talking about?
What are you
You're the coach. So, no, it's not necessarily fair. Okay, what they were coming from in 2018 was a relegated, Division III FCS school. That was a terrible team. The fun fact about the 2018 team is they averaged 14.1 points per game. That's less points per game than the 2008 0-16 Detroit Lions. So they may have won 3 games, but it didn't show a whole lot. Now he comes in, and Kyler Murray, nobody knows what Kyler's going to be. I called it. And it's funny how it happened with the Hail Murray later. I called Steve Keim's decision to take Kyler Murray, number 1 overall, was his Hail Murray to keep his job, because it was. Yep. And if it didn't work, he would have been gone. Cliff would have been gone. They would have cleaned house just like they did with Earl Watson and all of the GMs that led just like before James Jones, just a litany of people that almost but didn't. Cliff is a work in progress. And we'll see this year, because this is year 3 of Kyler's rookie scale contract. So let's hope it works. And the toughest part, I said they should have fired him at the end of last year. I don't know if that's fair or not.
I don't know how he kept his job.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could say that they've improved both years that he's been here, which is true by win-loss, 100%. Yeah, but he's also the head coach. Head coaches get credit for a lot of stuff. John Harbaugh was going to get fired in Baltimore, and then Lamar Jackson happened, and he got a contract extension.
Right.
So it goes both ways. Not everybody's Bill Belichick. Not everybody's Pete Carroll, who has a job in perpetuity. Not everybody's like in college, like Bill Self, who's perennially underperformed except for winning. I think they won 1 with him, right? Yeah, but he has a lifetime deal. He got investigated by the FBI.
That's fact.
And he's like, you know what? You're with us, baby, forever. Don't break the law. So it's not an original story. I want Cliff to succeed. I want them to win 12 games this year and make the playoffs. Will it happen? I don't know, but you're right. It's going to be on the back of this offense, because my favorite thing to say is, if the offense isn't the strength of this team, why is Cliff Kingsbury here? That's what he was brought in for. So if you're relying on the defense to win games, why is he the head coach? May as well be Vance Joseph at this point and just flip roles.
Right.
Wow. But I hope he succeeds. And
bring in the heat.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, dude. Also, they didn't lose by 50 points 3 out of the first 4 games or whatever it was to start a season like Earl Watson did.
Yeah, true.
Or was it 2 out of 3? It was 2 out of the first 3.
It was 40-plus points 2 out of the first 3 games.
Yeah, that's a lot.
93 points total in 3 games. Most ever in NBA history.
Come on, guys. I don't even want to think about that stuff, man.
Well, you can now. You can laugh at it now because you're so far along the road.
Like, you know what I really want to laugh at? I want to laugh at Eric Bledsoe. I don't want to be here.
I don't want to be here. Right?
How many places has he not wanted
46.
to be since then? And I wonder, did he watch the NBA Finals? That's what I still wonder. Did Eric Bledsoe,
did he get a
watching
ring?
The 2 teams that traded him away, play in the NBA Finals without him?
Did he get a ring with Milwaukee? Was he with them this year?
No.
No.
Oh, he wasn't.
No,
He
he wasn't
He got
there at
traded
all.
to New Orleans before
Off
that.
season.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Corey Craig got a ring with Milwaukee.
boy.
Got a ring.
Playing 6 games with him or something like that.
Which if I ever see, I don't want to see that ring, Tori. I don't want to see that. He ever wears that ring, I'm gonna shame the hell out of him. You can't. You can't wear that ring.
That's good.
Alex, thank you. So so the differences between the similarities of the Cards is basically they got some nice talent, and they've got Kyler Murray, where the Suns have nice talent. They have Devin Booker. The differences is we don't know about the head coach, and you know what? I have a lot more faith in James Jones than I do Steve Keim at GM.
Yeah, I mean the only thing, like the thing that we can be excited about as one entity at Phoenix Sports people is they're both exciting at the same time.
Yeah,
that's never happened. I feel like it's safe to say, except for I was talking with Brendan Clean, your boy, a couple days ago, 2008, when the Cards made a Super Bowl run when they were 9-7, and the 7 seconds or less was still there, right? Yeah. Steve Nash was still there in 2008, so that might have been it, and it was a very small blip. And now they're two of the most exciting teams in their respective sports.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Devin Booker, Kyler Murray.
Let's hope they keep it going tomorrow.
Hey, Alex, that Viking team is going to present some challenges, man. Hey, I got to hit you on DM. We got to talk some football, man.
Cool. Listen to me real quick. Patrick Peterson, thank you once again. And the other thing is Dalvin Cook is the key. If the Cardinals stop Dalvin Cook on Sunday,
agreed.
That's a wrap. And what you said about Chandler Jones with the premonition, maybe, but their offensive line with Minnesota isn't great either.
Atrocious as of right now.
So they're going to blitz. Yeah. My favorite line of any sports movie ever is Coach Yost from Remember the Titans. You blitz all night, and that's what the Cardinals are going to do on Sunday.
Hey, I'll leave you with this. I think Christian Kirk is in for a big game.
Yeah, because he's going to line up against Patrick Peterson.
Yeah,
they're going to line up speed over there. Him and Rondale Moore are going to eat.
Everybody should have a big game against Patrick Peterson, man. I just want the Cards to toast him.
Oh. I'm just gonna watch.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun for sure.
Right. Alex, tell us. We're running a little over. Thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. Alex, tell us where we can find you.
Find me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Subscribe to Locked On Cardinals YouTube channel. You guys are great. Thanks for having me. It's weird doing it the other way, Dave.
I know, right?
Normally I'm hosting shows and you're joining us. But I appreciate you having me. Thanks very much.
Well, I hope we do this again.
Thank you.
And definitely, because this is perfect for Saturday morning shows. We might have to have some every once in a while have you come on to preview the weekend game.
I'm around.
The Cardinals too. All right, buddy. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Of
course.
Great job, Alex. Great job.
All right. And Flex.
Yes, sir.
Flex. I hope you shared on Twitter, social media, that you've been going through some stuff lately. You don't need to get into it with all the folks on the show. I just want you to know that you've got our support, and that I hope everything turns out okay with your family. And I really appreciate you coming on this show today, in the midst of all the things that are going on with you on a personal level.
Dave, I couldn't thank you enough, man. I appreciate you, my brother. You know I love you. And I love the show, and I love the fans. And like I said, this is a happy place for me, man. So allow me to disconnect from what's going on behind the scenes, and I thank you for that. Anytime you need me, brother, like I said, I genuinely love you, and I love this channel, and I love your network. I love everything you do. And so it's my pleasure to jump on with you, man. I appreciate the thoughts and prayers.
And good luck to you. If you kind of dropped a little, hey, you're talking about having a bigger role with John Bloom coming up. So that'd be nice to hear if that works out for you.
Absolutely.
All positive thoughts on that.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate it.
All right. So tell us for right now where we can find you, what to watch for.
Again, the Coast to Coast podcast with Dan Duarte, which we're trying to get that back up and running. The KSRN network, Believe Podcast Network. I got a couple of things coming down the pipe. I wish I can announce right now, but it should be coming in the next couple of days. And then, as always, just check me out at Flex from Jersey on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and I'll give all updates there.
All right, awesome. He is Flex from Jersey. If you find him on Twitter, that's where you're going to get all the latest news. We really appreciate you coming on here. I'm Dave King, NBA. Oh, you know what? I almost forgot. I have promised the 5-star reviews, I'm going to be sharing them on this show. I have promised that I'm going to do that because you guys are awesome. I've had a bit of a rocky summer after the finals, starting up a brand new podcast feed. I appreciate y'all staying with me on the YouTube side. And I really appreciate everybody throwing out those 5-star ratings for me on the podcast feed side. And I want to read a couple of them. I just can't put into words how much I appreciate your love and support, guys. The YouTube show is still growing strong and the audio feed is growing. I want to read a couple. Clay B from Apple Podcasts out of Mexico writes, Dave getting his own show is the best thing to happen to Phoenix sports since they drafted Book. They drafted Kyler. I'll give the Cardinals drafting Kyler at a little bit, but I'll take third. Enjoy it every week. And please, he says, I enjoy it every week. And please get Flex from Jersey on a show with you. Boom, Clay B. We did it. You welcome, man. Matthew Van Hoos says this podcast is the OG of Suns pods. I know so says Jay, has Fanning the Flames. That is technically the oldest Suns pod out there on the Bright Side Podcast Network. But I'll take it as one of the OGs because you got to have lots of OGs.
Yeah, lots of OGs.
Lots of OGs. Blue Order Scott says this is the ceiling of Suns podcast, and you got to do it live to get the best experience, and that is absolutely true. I appreciate all you guys doing this live. Other 5-star reviews I've gotten have come from M. Fieros 31. This is reviews, people leaving great notes for me. M. Fieros 31, New Hope Manny, Clay B, Odysseus Coop, Boyd Crawley, Sun Sphere, Connor Sprague. Connor Sprague, who works for the Suns, by the way, we have a big announcement coming up on Brightside Night. We're bringing that back, where we're going to do it in a safe way during the pandemic. I'm looking forward to giving you that big announcement. Connor and I will be talking about that soon. Seldom seen Schwig. Lando Bandano, Coach Khalil, Killer B, Galaxy 292, and Jay Voida, Darth, my man, all have given nice 5-star reviews. I hope you guys will give me a 5-star review as well. And if you don't want to leave a note, that's totally fine. Just give me the rating. You got to just go right on to leave the 5-star review. I'm going to put the link in the chat because if you're listening to it here, that means you like me. If you're here after an hour, that means you like me. So give me some love. I appreciate that, guys. It's in the chat now. Hit that link. All right. You can find me at Dave King NBA on Twitter. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Sun Solar Panel. You can find all my writing at brightsideofthesun.com. That's where I make my hay. That's where I do my some of my best work. I really appreciate it. You guys all being here, and check out all the work we've got. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Go Cardinals. Go Deandre signing. Go Mikel signing. Go Flex. Go everybody. Y'all have a great day.
Love you guys. Thanks for the support.